Okay, I welcome you to another video of the 52 book project. This week I read a book about running. The name of the book was The Rise of the Ultrarunners: A Journey to the End of Human Endurance. It was by Darren and Finn, who is a journalist and a long distance runner. It basically chronicles his journey to train for an ultra marathon, and he runs several ultra marathons around the world. And in the process, he tells us about this extreme sport and why people want to run and what they get out of these runs. Now, a marathon is about 42 kilometers long, and ultra marathon is anything above 42 kilometers. It can range from 50 kilometers to over 200 kilometers. And there are famous ultra marathons around the world, like the Leadville 100, which is a 100-kilometer race in the US, and like the deserts, under the sun. And then the UTMB is a famous race in Europe. And you need points, and to eventually qualify for these big races, you have to run several smaller races to do that. Now, I learned a couple of things about running in general from this video or this book. The first thing I learned is that it's so important to slowly build up to a large target. For instance, the author, before running the UTMB, ran several other long distance races in the same range and slowly built up their miles. So they ran a 30-kilometer race, then a 40-kilometer race, then a 50, 60, 70, and eventually got comfortable with the 100-kilometer race. So that big target was actually broken down into smaller chunks. The next thing is, the author constantly emphasizes that in a long distance marathon or an ultra marathon, there will come a point where you start feeling pain. And that is the point where you really have to challenge yourself to keep going. And it's very important to not give up at that point. And it shows you how by pushing yourself, you can also understand your boundaries and extend those boundaries to an extent. Then the third thing I learned was about how running can be very meditative. When you're running, you are really in constant connection with yourself, how your body is feeling, how you're breathing. And the good runners have a strong mind body connection. It is a physical act, but it's also a mental act. And I think in the process of running such a long distance on your own, you really have to be mindful of how your body is working, and also you need to try your best to avoid injuries. Speaking of avoiding injuries, in addition to running, this race also includes a lot of eating and sleeping, which is very odd to think about, but the runners actually have to eat a lot because some of these races last 10 hours, 15 hours. So they have to take periodic naps and eat to survive the entire race. And I think what I really liked was this aspect where he interviewed other ultra marathon runners around the world and looked at their perspective on running. And a lot of them spoke about how they, somewhere along the run, maybe after 60 or 70 kilometers, they really realize that running is something that teaches you how to be human. It's really something that allows you to be present, but it's also something that pushes your boundaries. And in the process of running an ultra marathon, you realize a lot about yourself. And in the book, a lot of the best ultra marathon runners also turn to running to overcome some trauma, and a lot of them just run because it's something that gives them meaning in their lives. So, to continue my learning from this book, I'd like to learn about the other ultra marathon races around the world and maybe explore some other books by the same author.